From the gold rush and all those NFC championship appearances to the gold flush when you get rid of John Harbaugh. You hire Jim Tomsula, he's gone after a year. You hire Chip Kelly, he's gone. And now you have 37-year-old Kyle Shanahan and a complete overhaul of the front office. So we'll see how this – we'll see. We'll just freaking see. It's the Niners. Brendan Albert is here. I'm Adrian Fedke. We got to preview all 32 teams, so we're up with the Niners right now.
Yeah, we certainly do. You know, the Niners are one of those teams we're previewing today, and honestly, I think no one is really expecting the Niners to be a playoff team or even be a 500 team. So really what we're doing is we're previewing them today and realistically saying, what are they going to be drafting in the 2018 draft? And that's pretty much what the conversation is going to be today, but we got to talk about the Niners. They are one of the 32 teams in the NFL. Ton of front office changes, and let's kind of get into it, Adrian.
Yeah, this isn't even going to be a team preview. It's going to be a talk about the head coach, talk about the front office, and what they're going to do at quarterback in the future. So that's what it's going to be. So Kyle Shanahan, 37 years old, never had a head coaching job in his life. It does not have an offensive coordinator. What do you think of Shanahan? Do you think he can be successful?
I do. I mean, honestly, I think it's one of the more undervalued things that we're talking about, and we'll talk about this with the Falcons next weekend, or tomorrow, actually. I think that's a big loss for the Falcons. You know, when you lose a good offensive coordinator like that, that's certainly really valuable. So I think Shanahan, you know, I love the fact that he wants to be involved in the offensive play calling, and he certainly shows the ability to do it, but he's never been a head coach. I mean, he doesn't really fully, you know, have the experience of what it's like being the head man in charge. So I hope he's ready to delegate, because he's got a lot of things on his plate now, more than he's ever had before.
It'll be interesting because I think the 49ers situation is just a dumpster fire. I think it's a terrible situation to walk into. But I do like Kyle Shanahan as an offensive type of mastermind. You look at that offense last year in Atlanta. Second in total offense, third in pass offense, fifth in rush offense. There's a reason why Matt Ryan won the MVP last year, and a lot of it had to do with Kyle Shanahan.
Without a doubt. I mean, look, yeah, the Falcons obviously had a very, very talented offense, but you know what? They had a talented offense before Shanahan was there too. You know, it's not like all of a sudden, you know, these guys just came in all at the same time and, oh, well, then Shanahan didn't really contribute. No, Julio's been there. Matt Ryan's been there. You know, Devontae Freeman, been there. He was really able to unlock them and take them all to that next level. So, you know, there's no doubt that he deserves a lot of credit. Obviously, play calling the Super Bowl probably cost them the championship ring. But at the same time, his play calling got him to the Super Bowl. And, you know, if you know anything about the Falcons, they don't exactly have a long line of success. So I'm a big fan of Shanahan. I think he's going to do good things there in San Francisco, but the cupboard's pretty bare.
I'll just say, I mean, I know this is another topic and we're getting to the Falcons almost, but I'll say this about their Super Bowl and the lack of running that they had in the second half. That's how they play offense, quick passing game. It's a high completion percentage type of offense. I did not hate what they did. We've seen so many teams in the past lose leads by just running the football, going free and out, not being as aggressive offensively. So what the Falcons did in the Super Bowl, while yes, you know, you can blame Shanahan for all the misdoings and trying to throw the ball, I didn't necessarily disagree with it as much as everyone else did.
I mean, when you think about it, I can argue for it and I can argue against it. Here's how I'm going to argue for it. They said, look, we want to throw the ball a little more, and we have the MVP of the NFL on our team as quarterback. So we're going to trust him to do it. Okay, I get that. That said, basic instinct tells us, hey, the thing we are really fighting against is the clock right now. We have two really good running backs. We have an offensive line who has performed well above their average there in Atlanta last year. Run the rock. So personally for me, I still don't think Shanahan, you know, I think Shanahan did actually cause them to lose the game. But I'm not going to blame the guy, because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have gotten Super Bowl in the first place.
I mean, sure, yes, you run the ball, but, like, I didn't hate it. I've just seen so many see, it's just like you get the blame when you lose, but, like, when you lose and you run and you go 3 and out, then you get blamed for that too. So it works both ways, you know. It's just the way it goes. All right, so let's get into John Lynch now and this front office. And, you know, I'll tell you what, I think they did an outstanding job in the NFL draft. You know, even moving back just one spot. They knew that this year was not the year to get their quarterback. So I love what they did. They get Solomon Thomas. They get Reuben Foster late in the first round. I absolutely love their draft.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at what the Niners did, realistically, they got 4 starters, potentially. Now, I mean, you look at Solomon Thomas, he's going to start. There's one. Then you add Reuben Foster, he's going to start. And obviously, with the release of Brooks yesterday, this solidifies the fact the Niners are very confident in Foster. And then you add in, they got a corner. Was it hang on, I have it on my side screen here, from Colorado. So he's going to come in. He'll be a starter there. And then potentially C.J. Beathard could be the starting quarterback. Now, he might be the starting quarterback or might be in the mix at some point just because the Niners really don't have an option there at quarterback. But my favorite thing, what they did was, realistically, they probably were going to take Solomon Thomas at 2. I mean, realistically, that's probably what they were going to do. So why not trade down one spot, still get the guy you want, get more ammo for the future draft? And then ultimately they were able to go up and get Reuben Foster too, a guy who was sliding, maybe has some shoulder concerns, but you know what? Realistically, the Niners took him in a position where there was very, very low risk. I mean, they got him at the end of the first. So it's not like, hey, this was the only first-round pick they had. They saw him on the board and they said, you know what? Let's go up and take a flyer on him. And obviously we know Navarro Bowman hasn't had a back-to-back injury-free year last 2 years, unfortunately. So, you know, we obviously know that Reuben Foster's there in the developing. I love what the Niners did in the draft. I agree with you, Adrian.
Did you know about the story about Lynch and Thomas and how they went to Stanford together in the summer in 2014? I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really freaking neat when your GM takes part-time classes at Stanford and you happen to sit next to your future first-round pick.
And take notes from that future first-round pick as well, using him as a cheat sheet.
Yeah, pretty neat experience right there for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's talk quarterback situation now. Now, they signed Brian Hoyer, but you bring up C.J. Beathard. See, here's the thing for me. This team stinks, and it's just like the Jets situation. It's just like the Browns situation. Yes, the Browns should be starting DeShone Kizer. And in San Francisco, okay, C.J. Beathard was a third-round pick. But for me, it's like I'm tossing him out there just to see what you have. I mean, we already know Brian Hoyer, what he is. Well, what is C.J. Beathard? That's the
I'm with you. No, I'm with you 100%. I mean, realistically, what does C.J. Beathard bring you that Hoyer doesn't? I mean, I don't think that it's like definitively that one guy is that much better than the other, or even Barkley for that matter. I mean, I think all of them are right there, and they're all kind of meh, fine, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, bring out C.J. Beathard, see what he's got. If inevitably he shows nothing to be better than a Brian Hoyer or Matt Barkley, fine. Then you're still in the same spot you are this year. I think they have 3 below-average quarterbacks in the NFL. All 3 of them would be lucky to be NFL backups for the rest of their career. That's my expectation. But C.J. Beathard is the only one we haven't seen take a professional NFL snap in a regular season yet. So why not give him a shot?
Yeah. All right, so let's look at the future now. Beathard probably not going to be your future quarterback. So there's been the rumblings about Kirk Cousins. And that actually makes sense because I think he actually fits what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. But then it's also a great quarterback class next year. So what do? You go after Cousins or do you draft one?
Well, I think they're obviously in that spot of best player available. Now, when you look at what the draft's going to probably shake out, you're probably going to have teams like Jacksonville, Buffalo, the Jets, San Francisco, Cleveland. Those are probably going to be your bottom 5 teams, and all 5 of them need quarterbacks, which there's 3 guys as of right now that really look to be first-round quarterbacks. So realistically, 2 teams are probably going to be left holding the bag. In my guesstimation, I'm going to say that Buffalo is going to be the best spot to get one of those quarterbacks because they have 2 first-round picks next year. So even if they don't land in the top 3, they have the ammo. They have more ammo to trade up and get one of those guys than the other teams. So the thing is with San Francisco and the Cousins rumors, Kirk Cousins is going to be about a 30-year-old quarterback hitting free agency, probably in the height and prime of his career. That's extremely rare. So if I'm San Francisco and I had the option of either drafting a quarterback or I have the option of go ahead and signing Cousins, I'm going to sign Kirk Cousins, and then I'm going to trade down just like they did this last year, get out of the spot where quarterback is rumored to be taken, get a little more ammo because really their whole roster is in a rebuild. It's not like they're one quarterback away like the Texans were or something like that. San Francisco, probably not taking a quarterback. Now, that said, if I land in the one spot and I'm in love with Aaron Donald, go ahead and take him.
Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, yep, my bad.
Aaron Donald is a heck of a quarterback.
I'm sure they wouldn't love to draft him if they had a chance to.
I'm waiting for Cliff Harris again. I'm waiting for that one. Dude, for me, Kirk Cousins is going to be 30, and I don't think this team is ready to win anytime soon. So I would go younger. I would go with the young quarterback. But at the same time, I really do think that Kirk Cousins fits what Shanahan likes to do with his passing game. So it'll be interesting. But I think quarterback is the way to go. I think they'll be bad enough that they'll be top three. The three are Darnold, Rosen, and Allen. Some people like Lamar Jackson. So I think getting one of those three is the better option, but that's just me.
No, I don't think you're wrong. You know, they're certainly in that full rebuild mode. So getting a young quarterback certainly makes a ton of sense. I just kind of view it in this sense that, you know, as you are in full rebuild mode, why not just keep drafting good players around the quarterback, sign a quarterback, and now maybe all of a sudden you can jump to become an 8-8 and a 9-7 team in one off season, and then see how things kind of develop as those young players continue to improve.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll go position by position now, and it's interesting because they were, I believe, like 5th in rushing yards last year, but a completely different offense now. Carlos Hyde really doesn't fit their scheme. So it'll be interesting to see how that situation plays itself out. There's rumors even that Hyde might even get cut.
Yeah, there are rumors that he was one of those guys who was going to be a release, but honestly, this late in the game, it'd be really shocking for him to be released here. Okay. He's a guy he's going to keep getting the rock. And there's nothing really on offense for them. So honestly, yeah, maybe he doesn't fit per se the offensive scheme, but you don't have any other options. He's one of the best offensive threats you have, so you got to stick with him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do like their I'm curious to see how their 4th round pick, Joe Williams, pans out. The kid from Utah. I liked him a little bit. So, I mean, it's 4th round pick, but we'll see. But, yeah, Hyde, it'll be interesting because he really doesn't fit the scheme. But, you know, he is the best that they have. Wide receiver spot. There's nothing here. Oh, my. Pierre Garçon, they signed him during free agency, but after him, it's a whole bunch of nothing.
Pierre Garçon is one of those consistent chain movers in the NFL. Consistently a guy getting over 100 targets, getting around 70 receptions for about 700 yards receiving. Very solid player, but receiving threat, there's nothing here, Adrian. You're 100% right.
I'm looking at it. Aldrick Robinson, Marquise Goodwin, Jeremy Curley. Ugh, ew. They didn't draft one until the 5th round, Trent Taylor, but that also just shows how many holes they have on their roster that they waited until the 5th round to take a wideout. So, yeah, I'm with you on Garçon, too. You know, that was a guy that I wanted the Eagles to pick up for like a year or two because I think he's just consistent every year. You know what you're going to get, 600, 700 yards. He's kind of underrated, too, because when I threw out his name, everyone kind of laughed at me. I'm like, okay, well, you clearly don't know what he can do each and every season, how consistent he can be. So, you know, that's that. Offensive line. So they still have Joe Staley. He's still one of the best tackles in the game. But the rest of that line has gone downhill. And what do you think about Josh Garnett? He really didn't have a good rookie season.
No, he didn't. And, you know, really when you look at the offensive line for the Niners, aside from Joe Staley, everything else is very excuse me, very much forgettable players.
Yeah.
The Niners actually made a really interesting thing. They traded down in the 6th round, went out with Baltimore, and got Jeremy Zuda, the center, and then they released him.
Yeah.
So I was one of those things. I was
Baltimore sign him back.
Baltimore re-signed him then for a 2-year deal. So essentially, in this trade, Baltimore moved up. I think it was like 14 picks, and then got the player back. So I was like, that's one way to handle it. But yeah, I mean, offensive line certainly not something that's really a great spot for them. The other thing I want to talk about that's, I guess you could kind of say, hybrid offensive line, receiver, obviously a tight end. Vance McDonald's a guy who he got a contract extension there with the Niners. He hasn't had a season with more than 35 receptions. So he's a guy who's really got to step up. Obviously, we know what Shanahan likes to do. Really likes to use the tight ends heavily. So McDonald could be a guy on the rise. But like we said, there's not much weapons out there in San Francisco.
Yeah, looking at the rest of this offensive line, you got Staley at tackle, Trent Brown at right tackle. Brandon Fusco is your right guard. Daniel Kilgore is solid at center, but like there's not much there. They have Zane Beadles in the guard mix as well. So there you go. All right, defensive line. You got a pair of Oregon Ducks. So you had the Chip Kelly influence there with the drafting of DeForest Buckner last year. They pick up Eric Armstead the year before. So these two kids, what do you think? Are they going to develop?
I'm worried about Armstead. Armstead's a guy I have in my hot seat. He's actually my hot seat player I have here in San Francisco. In 3 years, he only has 15 tackles, and he only started 5 games. That's not a first-round player really panning out by any means. Buckner looked fine in his first year, so that's good. Bring in Solomon Thomas. I think everyone feels pretty confident in his skill set. But, yeah, I'm a little worried there about Armstead.
Yeah, I would guess that they're definitely worried about Armstead if you would go and draft Solomon Thomas. Especially with there's so many needs on this roster. So for them to go after Thomas, they must be a little worried about Armstead. But it also says how much they like Solomon Thomas as well.
Certainly. And I think the one thing that with Solomon Thomas is he's very scheme versatile, 4-3, 3-4. I think he really can be a nice fit everywhere. So I don't necessarily think they drafted him definitively to replace Armstead. I think they really drafted him because he's a good fit and he can be versatile up and down the line. But Armstead in general has just struggled, so he's a concern for me. Buckner looked pretty good in his first year. Armstead, not so much.
Yeah. So their new defensive coordinator used to work under Pete Carroll in Seattle, Robert Saleh. And he says his goal is to have the best run defense in the NFL. He wants to have a great run defense. Now, obviously, they have a long ways to go because they were ranked 30th or 32nd last year against the run, so dead last. I like the fact that they at least got somebody from Seattle as their D coordinator.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Seattle's defensive coordinators, they've had a whole bunch of guys go on and get places. Gus Bradley, and then, of course, we have Coach Quinn there in Atlanta. So, they've had the opportunity of their DCs going on to other places and been successful. So, yeah, I mean, we certainly need to see something improve there in 49ers world. Stopping the run is huge, especially in that division. San Francisco wants to be a power run team. We obviously know the Rams. They want to be a power run team with Gurley. You got David Johnson, who might be the best running back in the NFL. So stopping the run is going to be crucial for the Niners' defensive success moving forward.
Yeah. All right, we've talked about the linebackers a little bit. We got into them. LeVar Bowman's still doing his thing. So we'll get into the secondary now. And I want to ask you about the safeties because they went 3 straight years where they went safety. Eric Reed, Jimmy Ward, Jarquisty Tart. But none of them are really, exceptional or anything. Yeah,
I mean, Jimmy Ward was the weird one because when he was drafted, I think everyone kind of looked around the room and was like, most people had him as a 2nd or 3rd round pick.
Mm-hmm.
He went in the 1st. And he's been a hybrid of safety and corner and really hasn't excelled at either. So I don't really know what to think about Jimmy Ward. Personally, for me, I'm a big Eric Reed fan.
Oh, Eric Reed's good. I like Eric Reed.
I mean, he's a solid safety. He's a solid tackler. His problem is he's not the turnover machine that you want from the safety. He's really more of your thumper, stop the run, and be a secure tackler. Not the turnover machine that you really want in the free safety. Honestly, for the Niners, defensive backs is all big problems there. And that's why, I said Witherspoon, the corner they drafted out of Colorado, realistically, he's got a chance to come on and be a starter earlier there just because they really don't have a lot of weapons or a lot of defensive stoppers in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, and they released Tremaine Brock after that whole situation, so he's no longer there. Keller Witherspoon might be in a situation where he starts because I'm looking at this depth chart. I mean, Dante Johnson, Rashard Robinson, those are your listed starters right now. I remember Kwan Williams from Cleveland. He was pretty good for them, but like he's not anything like special or anything. So it's going to be a long year there in the secondary, and they don't exactly pressure the quarterback very well. So it's going to be a long year on defense.
No, there's gonna be a lot of asks of Solomon Thomas, Buckner, Armstead, Eli Harold, Lynch. There'll be a lot of asks of those guys to get a lot of pressure, because if they're not getting pressure, these DBs aren't going to hold up very well in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into it. Hot seat, overrated, all that stuff. Who's on the hot seat?
Yeah, my hot seat is Armstead here from former Oregon Duck. Like I said, 15 tackles in 3 seasons, not getting it done. So you're my hot seat contender here.
Is Carlos Hyde fair? I mean, because just because of all the rumors about him potentially getting cut, not being a fit for the scheme, so he obviously has to play very well to make the team. Sure. But again, it's like we talked about it earlier. If you get rid of Carlos Hyde, who else is your running back? Who's your guy? You got Joe Williams in the 4th round, and who else? Who's Tim Hightower?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the Niners, if let's say they move on from Hyde sooner rather than later, and next season they're in the draft, Saquon Barkley's there, Geis is there. I mean, those are guys that realistically could be there in the early first if they don't fall in love with the quarterback. Or, I agree with you, Adrian. I think he's a fair hot seat contender there, and he hasn't been able to stay healthy most of his career either. So that's another big reason he's fair to be on the hot seat.
Well, that goes back to Kirk Cousins and maybe why it could be a good idea to sign him, because if you sign him, then you could draft Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you could, like, both sides of the argument you can see with Kirk Cousins and not. I'm not as high on Kirk Cousins as a lot of other people are, but I do think that he is a fit for the scheme.
Sure.
So, all right. What else do we do? We haven't done a show in 2 weeks. I forget.
I know. I have the Niners going 5-11 this year.
5-11? Okay, I got 2-14.
2-14? Okay. I think they'll find a way to get at least 2 wins in the division.
Yeah.
So I have that. And then, you look at some of these other games they have. So you got some tough ones here. Panthers at Colts, at Washington, Dallas, at Philly. It's tough. I think 5 wins is realistically the ceiling. I'll give them 5 wins. I think they're going to be a little bit better than the Rams per se, maybe a little bit, but not much.
Interesting. All right. So you like them a little bit better than I do. I still think they stink.
They do.
Yeah. Like, really stink. But I do think Kyle Shanahan is a good coach. So, maybe that gives him an extra win or 2. I don't know. We'll see. But I got 2-14 for the time being. So that's where I'm at. All right, underrated. Who's underrated?
Pierre. Yeah, I mean, Pierre. I think he's one of those guys. I mean, his whole career he's been underrated. Drafted out of Division III powerhouse in Mount Union in Ohio. So obviously wasn't getting the love, and when it got drafted, performed really well everywhere he's been. I mean, everywhere he's been, he's been a stable, consistent player. No, he's not the guy that's going to get you 100 receptions in a season and 1,200 receiving yards and 10 touchdowns. But that's not his game. His game is 60 to 70, maybe like 100 yards, kind of in there per reception. You think about the averages. So 60 to 60 receptions, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think he's stable. I think he's a solid receiver there in the NFL.
Yeah. I got nothing as a sleeper. There's not much here. Joe Staley, is he really a sleeper? I mean, people know he's good. I'll go with Daniel Kilgore, the center. I don't think he's terrible. I think he's a pretty good center. He's solid, so I'll go with him. Not a lot of good candidates on this roster. So, all right, so fantasy player, and then we'll get out.
It's got to be Pierre. I mean, because there's really nothing else here. I mean, first off, if Carlos Hyde isn't cut, which I would be shocked if he is, he'd be good. He'd be a good, probably top 25 running back, good RB2. I like Pierre Garçon as a nice PPR third receiver on your team. I like him. I think he's solid. He's stable. He's not going to be a guy who's probably going to win you any fantasy matchups, but you know what you're going to get every week from him. So I like Pierre Garçon.
All right, there it is. There's our San Francisco 49ers preview. We have more live viewers than I thought. I thought, I was hoping we'd get more than one. We got 5 live viewers right now, so outstanding. Thanks, guys, for watching this treachery of a preview. Now we're going to do the Rams. Yippee.
Thanks, guys.